Okay, let the record reflect it's 12:35 and it's June 28th, and the board's convened to consider its first case on the docket. It is a Mid-Ohio Eastern or Mid-East Ohio Building Authority case. It's case number 21-0072, and it deals with the MFM building products expansion located in Coshocton, and the building department's adjudication number is noted on the docket. We'll start by having an appearance of the parties, beginning with the appellant, Mr. Miller. I know you're on, and you're going to have two individuals with you. If you would enter your appearance, spell your last name, state your full name, spell your last name so we have that on the record, and then the capacity by which you're here in a representative way. We'll do that with the two colleagues of yours that are present. And then we'll do that with we'll do the same with the fire official. My understanding is that the building official will not be present due to a vacation. But go ahead, Mr. Miller.
Yes, Robert Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R, with Tecton Engineering and the design professional. And I actually have three others in the room with me.
Okay.
I'll let each of them introduce themselves as well now. So,
okay. Thank you. I could ask you to spell your first or state your full name and then spell your last name, and then the capacity by which you're attending.
Robert Miller Sr., M-I-L-L-E-R, also from Ohio Dutch Construction, the contractor.
Thank you.
Tony Reese, R-E-I-S, the president of MFM Building Products.
Thank you.
Paul Bratton, B-R-A-T-T-O-N. I'm with MFM Building Products.
Okay, and then I understand Mr. Baughman is not going to be present, but I understand that we have Brent Ensley and Captain Mills. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
I'm Brent Ensley, E-N-D-S-L-E-Y, Fire Prevention Officer for the City of Coshocton Fire Department.
Thank you.
Rick Mills, M-I-L-L-S, Acting Fire Chief for Coshocton Fire Department.
Acting Fire Chief, thank you. Okay, if both of the Millers, Mr. Braxton and Mr. Reese, and then our two fire officials would each stand, raise your right hand. I'll have an oath administered, and then we'll go over a couple ground rules and see whether we can proceed. Sam, would you administer the oath?
Sure thing. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
I do. I do. I do.
Okay. Gentlemen, we are a board of five by statute. Our engineer member, due to a close friend's passing unexpectedly, is consumed with the services today. So we're going to proceed as a board of four. Our fire official, however, is running behind, and so we're happy to wait until the board's populated to four. We'd even be willing to continue the matter until we have a board of five. But Mr. Miller, what's your pleasure in going forward?
we're good with moving forward with a board of three.
Okay, and Mr. Ensley and Captain Mills?
We're good with that.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Then we shall do that. Mr. Miller, you have the floor.
Thank you. So basically, we're here to, they're doing a addition of, let's see here, proposed addition of 46,476 square feet to the building use being manufacturing and warehouse. It's an all metal building construction, and we intend to match that with the addition. The existing buildings provided with automatic sprinkler system and fire alarm. Also want to mention the surrounding buildings are also provided with detection and notification to the main facility that surround this building when we get to the site plan. The appeal is to appeal the per section 507.4, the building exceeds height and area requirements for the construction type and use group. And so we would like to appeal the option of not installing a firewall along the addition and existing building. They manufacture self-adhered waterproofing membranes and tapes. Some are petroleum-based, and kind of a wide range of products. And I also have some pictures of the existing site. The firewall, if installed, would cost in the range of $141,600. The main concern with go ahead, somebody.
No, I think you're fine.
The main reason with the firewall concern is obviously with a firewall, you're limited with openings between buildings. Some of their pallets and products are quite large, and feel that would really hinder the ability to use the space between loading docks, but also getting material from initial products into the manufacturing, but also storing finished product before they're delivered. And we reviewed with the building official and the fire to see if there was an option to, if they would support, appealing the firewall. And looking at the site plan, their C201 that's been brought up, the firewall would have to go along the north, along the west of the addition or east of the existing. Along that line of the addition would be a block wall. If we could go to sheet A100, which is the PDF.
Are you there? Mr. Miller?
Yep.
Okay.
Are we able to change sorry, I don't have control of the PDF. I didn't know.
Well,
Mr.
Began, our architect member, has put it up has shared that.
Oh, thank you. There we go. So the firewall, you can see two large openings towards the north, and that would be kind of the main pathway for product. But then also on the south end of the building, we also have loading docks that would vacate the material kind of as it comes and goes. On the site plan, we have, I've tried to do the perimeter increase, and with that, we're still short approximately 14,475 square feet over the code allowable with the perimeter increase. Unfortunately, we don't have 60 feet all the way around to allow us for an unlimited building. We have mostly public way and railroad on all four sides. We have public way and a railroad on the west side of the existing building. And so that's kind of the basis of this. I don't know if there are any questions immediately.
Questions of Mr. Miller by members of the board?
Yes, Mr. Chair. A couple of questions. Well, we got this A100 up right here. It looks like there's some new construction adjacent to these existing buildings that are planned south. Is that true or not?
Yes.
What's being built there?
Or to the south that are adjacent, those are existing. Our building where the loading dock is, we are putting a masonry wall to provide, the setback distance. Where your cursor is, those are existing.
But on this plan, it looks like there's some new construction here. Is there new construction there or no?
The only thing there was to provide, there is a gable that is not block construction. So we were going to remove the metal siding and basically provide a fire barrier with drywall, but not any addition, or it was just a modification to the existing building.
Okay, again, on this plan from your new loading docks to that building, what's that distance?
If you can go to the site plan, or I can think of a set here, C201. For you here. We're approximately, let's see here, 10 feet.
Okay. Any other questions of Mr. Miller?
Yeah, let me ask, I didn't see any pictures or anything. What is the access to the railroad right of way? I mean, it looks like the fence is right up next to the building. I'm just want to know fire department access around the building.
There's an alley down through there.
There's a paved alley, and I apologize for not getting you a photo for there. On the site plan, there is some hatching, and maybe the fire, Mr. Ensley and those guys could share as well confirmation, because we have walked the site with them. But there is access, paved access along there. I'm not aware of any fences along there. Is that correct, Paul?
There is a fence in between the buildings there, and right there where your cursor's at now, that open area, there is a fence there with a gate in there.
And that's Mr. Is that Mr. Bratton speaking?
It is, I'm sorry.
That's fine. Thank you. We're just, because we're doing this virtually, our court stenographer needs to know. Thank you.
Yep. So if you look on the south side there, which would be Elm Street, there is a fence coming down through there, and which then turns right and goes up along the tracks heading north. There is chain link fence up through there. It is gated, but there is access all the way through there through a paved alley.
So we haven't heard from the fire officials. I was reminded by Mr. Gearing, in order to grant a variance, we're going to need a majority of the board, which is going to be 3, and we're a board of 3 now. But we'll see where that dynamic heads in a minute. Neil, did you have any questions?
I don't at this time, but I'm having issues muting and unmuting too, just so you're aware.
Okay. Paul, did you still have further questions of Mr. Miller?
Yeah, more of an observation when we hear from the fire official. I mean, that 10 feet from the adjacent buildings, here's my concern, right, is that this, generally I would not be opposed to variance to this, is getting fire department access around the building. And that 10 feet between that existing building and the new overhead doors, loading dock area right there is not enough room for a fire department to get in and around the building. So that's my biggest concern, is that pinch point right there. I mean, if we had enough clearance so that fire department can get around and set up their ladder access all around the building, I think that would make me feel a little bit more comfortable. But we'll just think about that as far as when we get to the fire officials.
Well, I think that's a good segue into Captain or Mr. Ensley. What's the position of fire?
This is Captain Mills. During our pre-plans of the facility, we've always went down the alley of the railroad track side. That's where the FDC's connections are at. And also we would have access to the building just right to it's the maintenance building, which would be, I don't see a number on anything, to the south, right next to the loading dock is the maintenance building. But we have access to that area on the railroad track side.
Thank you.
Is that area fenced though?
It's gated. There is a gate, and we have the Knox box keys that we can open up the gate as we need.
So there's a gate from the railroad right away into that area between
From the
buildings?
alley,
Yes.
yeah, from the alley to that area, yes.
So it sounds like, Captain, your access concerns are obviated. You think you have access, is that right?
Yes, we do.
Now, let me ask then a follow-up question to that. I mean, as far as getting apparatus in close to the building, again, it's that pinch point between that existing building and the loading docks right there. Do you have room to set up to be able to engage a fire?
Yes, sir. On the south side, that is actually a residential street that we have access to.
Well, what I'm saying is that first, I don't know, I don't have a dimension on here, that first 100 feet or so, you can't get close to the building because those existing buildings there, and you're not going to set up apparatus in that driveway by the loading docks because it's too close to the building.
Yeah, he's talking about. I mean, we wouldn't.
And again, the reason why
we're not going to set up an apparatus in the loading dock area, no.
well, that's what I'm saying. So how do you access that area?
From Elm Street, from.
Yeah, we just.
Hold on, because we do want to make sure we have a record of this, a stenographic record. Well, let's try that again, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the reason why the code is the way it is for unlimited area buildings, is having 60 feet open perimeter around so that fire department personnel can set up apparatus to be able to engage a fire. If there's a fire that's, let's say, coming through the roof, that they could set up apparatus all the way around to be able to engage as needed. In this particular location, we don't have that access. So what I was wondering is, where does the apparatus set up to reach that area? Again, you would not put apparatus because it's too close to the building in that loading dock area. How would you engage that area that, again, there's getting around to the other side and it's only 10 feet away from another building?
I guess I'm not seeing the problem because we got all of Elm Street that we could set up our aerial device if we need to. And we also have the area between the two existing buildings that we can park apparatus into. About right, if you move your cursor to the left, that's all open area right there. About that area right there is open. We could bring apparatus into that area.
So what are the loading docks dimensions, the area dimensions again?
That's for Mr. Miller, I think.
Yes.
The width of that path is 29 feet. Like the width of the loading dock, the length of that area is 80 feet. So if you looked at that L, you would be 29 by 80 feet, and this is Robert Miller.
Right, and that's primarily the shaded area.
Shaded area? Yeah, so the concrete,
Right.
it's to the edge of the building, not the apron of the concrete, obviously.
Okay, thank you.
And the two buildings are, close to flush stopping points.
Okay, well,
So this is Paul Bratton. So on the south side of that maintenance garage, there is no fencing there. That is all open. There's no fence there at all.
okay, well, let's I think we know the issue. We've heard fire indicated has a comfort level with fighting a fire and staging its apparatus if need be, but I'm not sure that that necessarily meets with the comfort level of one or more of the board members. So we probably ought to vet that. Paul, where would you be on this?
You know, in essence, let's say that those two buildings were not there, right? Then I would not see an issue. Then we can call it an unlimited area building and get a variance because we don't have the clearance away from the right of way of the railroad tracks of which the fire department has access. We've seen that before on other cases as well too. Again, my biggest concern is we're 10 feet away from another building there. I mean, my comfort level would be is if we had that same driveway width, 30 feet instead of 10 feet, that would make me feel more comfortable because then we have, at least some distance between that and the adjacent building to be able to maneuver around there. One protection of those other buildings, 10 feet away is, of unprotected walls is not a whole lot between either of the two buildings as far as any engagement of any fire between those two.
Neil?
Are the two existing buildings, are they suppressed?
Mr. Miller?
This is Robert. They are not suppressed, but monitored. One question I did have, if they were protected, because we do have an existing masonry wall on the maintenance existing building, would that help the comfort level of the board if we would ensure that that is a rated to provide additional separation based on fire, basically a exterior fire barrier?
That's a good question for our architect member.
It really doesn't for me. And again, where's, a possibility, right? I've seen this before, right? Is that in your loading dock area, because of, I assume that's enclosed, you're able to pull vehicles inside there?
No, that's open.
So what's that 20 feet on the inside then?
That's a ramp, because of the way the grades are, that's actually a ramp back down to finished floor. It's not a depression, it's up higher. So the trucks are actually.
Again, if there's, a vehicle fire or something right there, how do you get to it? You can't, you're limited by only access from one area and not from the other side. So my comfort would be to move that loading dock back 20 feet to give yourself some clearance to be able to get in and out if need to be in an emergency.
Is that doable, Mr. Miller?
I was just trying to discuss here with the MFM team to see what options we'd have.
That's fine. We'll if you want to mute, let's just take a short recess so you can confer with your client.
Okay, thank you.
You can mute so we can't hear you. Sam will go off the record.
Thank you.
Chip?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes. And I let Carl know you're here.
Okay, thank you.
They took a break for a minute.
I just caught that, yeah.
You okay?
We lost power in my
Lost power in Neil's. Yeah, it's a dark screen. So Susan, is Chip appearing by phone?
Yes,
Okay,
at least until I get to my office. I'm about 15, 20 minutes away from my office, and then I can log on.
gotcha. That's fine. Chip, we proceeded with just the three of us on this case.
Is this still the first case?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
This is Robert, and we're ready whenever you want to go back on the record.
Okay, well, let me real quickly. Neil's not on, is he, Susan?
He is calling in.
Okay.
Just a moment, please.
Okay. Sorry, gentlemen, we're having technical difficulties. There are a few of us on the board that would like to go back to the old way of having in-person hearings.
Now I can hear you. All right. All
All
right.
right.
I need to mute at *6, right?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, we are back on the record, Mr. Miller.
Yes, Robert Miller. After discussing it, there is a little lean-to section there. If we removed it, not remove the entire maintenance building, but just that hatched area, it would essentially give us 30 foot from that corner to the corner of the main building. Would that be an option to meet the intent of access to that loading dock corner?
Yeah, I think that would be fine. Again, just looking at an aerial of it, it does seem like, yes, that is some type of an addition or something to that building that could easily be removed.
Correct.
Neil, does that get you to the crossing line, finish line?
Yeah, if I'm understanding correct, I would be fine with that.
Captain or Mr. Emsley, anything for fire with respect to that?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Were you able to hear the commentary here?
About removing that little existing lean-to?
Yes.
Yes, that'd be fine with us.
Okay. Paul, do you need a minute?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, back off the record again, Sam. Thanks. Hey, Chip, if we get through this case and I'm about to call the second case, would you prefer that we just hold that until you get to the office, or how would you want, or do you want to stay on the phone?
I'll just stay on the phone. I mean, I can
Okay,
stay on the phone until get my computer fired up and logged in, so I'll at least hear everything.
sounds good.
Obviously, I'm going to abstain on this vote just because.
Right. Well, you only heard part of it.
Yeah, hey, Carl, I'm not sure if I'll be able to finish the day because I got to figure out what's going on here.
Well, there'll be some appeal saying that the lights went out in the pipe fitter's office.
The whole building's out, our emergency.
Whole building.
Crazy, huh?
Yes. The issue is that is your HVAC gonna, is the HVAC working?
No, that kicked off too. We probably blew one of our phases out.
I gotta get nice and toasty in there.
Well, believe me, I won't be sticking around. I can actually see my hard copies though now. I opened up my blinds.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Sam, let's go back on the record, please.
This variance is conditioned on the following. Number one, the lean-to shed attached to the maintenance building shall be removed such that the distance between the loading dock of the new addition and the existing maintenance building is a minimum of 30 feet. Number two, this variance is granted based on the use, construction, occupant load, building areas, and level of activity identified on the approved construction documents, including the maintenance of all building systems and any conditions required herein.
Okay, Mr. Miller, were you able to visualize those two conditions, or otherwise you were able to hear Mr. Began? What's your comfort level?
So I have a question. 30, scaling, it's right there. Is there any way to get 28, 26 feet?
Is there any way to move your building another 2 feet?
Because I'm afraid then we're going to be into the main structure. It's not just the lean-to. You get it'll be much more costly to remove more. The lean-to will be pretty easy, but I'm concerned. What if it's 29'6" to the main building? I don't know that we gain a lot to the value of tearing into it.
Have you built any of your building yet?
No, we have not. No, it's a metal building package has been ordered though. So that's locked in stone, the metal building package. So in a sense, yes. So that's why I didn't know if, what is the critical distance? I just don't want to, I didn't officially measure with a tape and a place. We did a survey, but I'm also measuring, on a scale. So I just want to be careful.
What if you listed as approximately 30 feet and with the approval of the fire official?
Just was going to say, I was just thinking the same thing.
That would be greatly appreciated.
Captain Mills, Mr. Ensley, any comments on that?
Yes, we're okay with that verbiage.
Paul, are you okay with that verbiage?
Yeah, that's okay with me.
Okay. I hear a clock. I hear ticking.
No, that's my turn signal.
Oh, it's your turn signal?
Okay.
Let me reread this, Mr. Chair.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Paul. Go ahead.
That's okay. Variance condition number 1 shall read, the lean-to shed attached to the maintenance building shall be removed such that the distance between the loading dock of the new addition and the existing maintenance building is approximately 30 feet, and to the satisfaction of the building and fire officials.
Mr. Miller?
Sounds good to us.
Very good. Captain, Mr. Inslee?
That sounds good.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, for Board of Building Appeals case number 21-0072, the appellant is MFM Building Products for the premises MFM Building Products expansion. And I believe the address is 525 Orange Street, Coshocton, Ohio 43812. The appellee is Jason Bauman, building official for the Mid-East Ohio Building Department, and adjudication order number 2020-01. I move to grant the variance subject to the conditions previously read in the record and noting the no objection of the building and fire officials.
Okay, that motion's been made. Neil, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Miller, by a 3-0 vote on this board, the variance is granted with those two conditions. Is there anything further to come in front of the board?
Nope, that is it.
Captain, anything further to come in front of the board from on behalf of fire?
No, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you very much. That concludes this case. We will stand adjourned on that. And Susan, do you think we have the parties? Well, I think I saw Mr. Eaton's on, and do we have the other parties for the 1 o'clock case?
I'm not sure. We have entered or admitted a number of people by phone, so we just need to identify who they are.
Okay, let me call the case quickly. It's a Division of Industrial Compliance case, and it's case number 21-0073. It deals with the Ohio Department of Transportation facility located in Circleville, and the division's adjudication number is noted on the docket. I know we have Mr. Eaton present, or at least the computer indicates we do. Who do we have representing the Ohio Department of Transportation? That might be no one.
Can we take a moment and I'll check and see who's here by phone?
Right. Okay. We'll stand down for a minute or two. Thank you.
Give me a couple minutes, okay, Carl?
Yep, absolutely. And Sam, we're off record. Chip, you want to just sign off?
Yeah, I'm pulling up to my office now, so I'll be back on in a minute or two.
Yeah, and Neil said he needs some time given the circumstances in his office. So we'll take a 5 or so minute recess here.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Hi, this is Susan. I have a number of 614-264-1826. Could you identify yourself, please?
Yes, I'm waiting for the 130 adjudication at 240 North 5th.
Okay, and I'm sorry, who am I speaking with?
John Culp. I'm also on, I guess, in the, what do you call it, on wait online.
Okay. All right, thank you. And
yes,
then,
thank you.
And then I have also 614-599-1208.
That's Greg House with EM Engineering Group, waiting for the same call as John.
Okay, thank you. 740-975-7270.
That's Chris Maddox with Double 8 Fire. I'm also waiting for the 130 case at 240 North 5th.
Thank you. All those on phone, if you, just so you know, in order to mute or unmute your phone, all you have to do is hit *6.
Yeah, we assume we're in the lobby online and just waiting to get accepted into the call. Is that correct?
You are in the meeting.
Thank you.
So just so you're aware, to mute or unmute, all you have to do is hit *6 on your phones.
Susan, I mean, there's also a number of us that are online.
Watching?
Well, we're not in the meeting itself. So did we log in the wrong way or something?
Okay, I'm a little, you're in by phone. That's how we can communicate and have this conversation. If you're watching on your computer and it says the live event will continue in a moment, there's about a 10-second delay from what you see and what actually occurs. So you are in the meeting.
Live meeting.
I'm sorry?
I said, yes, we understand we're online. I'm online. I understand I'm on via my cell phone, but I'm also online in my computer, and there's about 6 of us that are just online on our computers, but not in the meeting itself.
Okay, all right.
Well, let me ask the question. How many of you are going to actually participate that will need to swear in for purposes of this hearing?
Well, there'll be at least one. The architect is the lead, so he will do all the talking unless there's one of us that needs to be also involved.
All right, thank you.
Carl, you want an update from my end?
Please.
We lost one of our legs of our 3-phase. We won't be on until a minimum of 4 o'clock. There's a good chance I might lose power to the phone too. So that is what it is. I really don't know what to tell you.
I think you just try to stay on, and if you go down like the Titanic, you will go down like the Titanic. You know?
Yeah, but my coffee pot's off. You know.
Oh no.
Our chillers are locked out.
Okay, Carl, no one is here yet on behalf of ODOT. Kyle Carpenter, Eric Moser, or Mike Luch. So I'm not sure. I'll try to reach out to him.
Right, but Jeff, if I saw your memo.
Susan, if I may interrupt, this is John Culp again. They're on the same, I'll call it, internet connection that we're on that apparently is not part of your meeting somehow.
Hello?
Yeah, I have just a moment, John. I'll be right back with you. Hi, this is Susan. I just admitted.
Run.
I'm sorry, who am I speaking to?
That was me, Susan.
614-562-0759.
Yes, that is me. I'm Kyle Carpenter. We're supposed to be on the 1 o'clock hearing.
Yes.
We're on the Teams channel. There's a bunch of us on here, but we can't actually join in and talk on the Teams application on the computer, it looks like.
Yeah, the only thing I can, Kyle, I only show one attendee who's watching. So I'm assuming that, yes, you did not join the live event because does your company have a licensed Teams app already?
We do, but we have the State of Ohio access account as well. And even when we click that, it just joins us in a group channel that's separate from the live event.
Oh, okay. So you were under State of Ohio as your tenant. So I have no idea.
Mr. Carpenter, are you going to be the one principally presenting?
Yes.
Okay. And would there be any reason that I would need to swear in Mr. Moser and or Mr. Lutz? Or Lutz?
It's not critical, no.
Okay, Mr. Eaton, are you still present?
Yes, sir.
I think we can call the case.
I'm comfortable with that. We've agreed on conditions, so it should be smooth.
Right, I agree. Okay, Sam, back on the record, please.
We're on record.
Mr. Carpenter, stay with us here, please. I'm going to call a case that is an Ohio Department of Transportation case. I had started to call it before, but we didn't have individuals from the Department of Transportation. It's case number 21-0073. It's a Division of Industrial Compliance adjudication, and the division's adjudication number is put on the docket. In order just to advance this, let the record reflect that Kyle Carpenter is present representing the appellant in this case, and Jeffrey Eaton is representing the division. Mr. Carpenter, wherever you're situated, if you would stand and raise your right hand. Same with you, Mr. Eaton. Sam, would you administer the oath?
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes, I do.
Okay, my understanding is, if I have this correct, that it's the only thing in front of us is item 1 on the adjudication order. Is that correct, Mr. Eaton?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Carpenter, you have the floor.
Yeah, so the building in question, an application we've done several times for the Ohio Department of Transportation. It is a tension fabric structure, non-insulated, about 10,000 square foot, a little over 10,000 square foot in size. The building is one of 3 buildings on site and is intended only for the storage of out-of-season or off-season equipment, preventing it from getting further damage from the weather and other elements on site. What is triggering the requirement for a sprinkler system is the fact that they are commercial vehicles that are being stored in here from time to time, which would mean that they have a gross weight rating of over 10,000 pounds. What we are proposing, as we have done in the past with these types of facilities, is rather than do a fire suppression system, that we instead install a heat detection system throughout the entire building that will enunciate the fire alarm system in the main building and relay out to the fire department upon the event of a fire, and also provide 1 smoke detector at the fire alarm panel as is required by code. The reason why we're requesting this, as I mentioned, it's an uninsulated building, so a fire suppression system is not ideal for a building like that. It also falls in line with the Ohio Department of Transportation's current maintenance standards for these types of facilities throughout. It's also worth noting that the main building on site where most work is being performed throughout the day is fully fire suppressed. And again, this building will only be used for storage of out-of-season equipment. It will not be used for maintenance or repair of any vehicles in the building, and it also will not have any high rack storage or storage of hazardous materials of any kind.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Carpenter? And I failed to, I got lost in the shuffle here. Our fire official, Mr. Carpenter, had signed off. He was commuting from a court hearing to his office. He was on phone when we didn't have the parties for the Ohio Department of Transportation. He was pulling up to his office. He was going to go in and log on. He has not. I assume you have no, under these circumstances, and given at least what you understand to be perhaps the division's of industrial compliance's position on this. Are you comfortable having the 3 of us hear this matter as opposed to?
I'm sure.
Okay. All right. Mr. E, first of all, any questions of Mr. Carpenter? Okay. Mr. Eaton?
We're in agreement with the heat detection system. I was just thinking, as Mr. Carpenter was speaking, maybe there should be another condition for the not being used for any vehicle or maintenance outside of that. No other questions or comments.
Mr. Carpenter, if that condition were to be added, does that frustrate the issue?
No, we already intend to not perform any maintenance on vehicles within this space, and likewise not have any hazardous material storage. So we are okay with that.
Okay, Paul and Neil.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Tell me a little bit about the fire alarm system, as far as in previous cases it's been tied into the fire alarm system of the main building. Is that the same in this case?
Yes,
or will have its own system and enunciator?
Correct. So it ties back to the main system where the enunciator relays to the fire department and to their security consultant, Northwest Ohio Security Solutions, both of which gets notified in the event of any fire in any of the buildings on site.
Hey, Neil, you still on?
Yeah, I'm still here.
What's your comfort level?
And there is no maintenance, no lifts, no storage. What is the total square footage again?
This is Kyle Carpenter. The total square footage is 10,300 square feet. What triggers the code requirement is once we have a fire area in excess of 5,000 square feet.
Right.
But no, there will be no vehicle maintenance, no storage of hazardous materials. It's just equipment sitting during off-season times.
If there's no maintenance on there and there's no storage of hazardous materials, I guess I'm all right. Where's the fire official at on this?
I'm sorry, this is Kyle Carpenter again. It's Pickaway Township Fire Department. They are a volunteer fire department. That is one thing I would like to note is that we have not had that meeting with them yet. We've scheduled it. They sound like they are entertaining the solution. So we're going to meet with them and the State Fire Marshal July 14th, and we can provide that letter of approval once we get that.
So if we put a condition of a letter of no objection from the relevant jurisdiction, you'd be comfortable with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is Chip on the call here, Carl?
No.
Yes, here.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah.
From you stayed on the phone?
No, I'm here. I'm on video. Can you not see me?
No. Cannot, but that's fine. Okay, so
I can see it, Chip.
Okay.
You just got to scroll down, Mr. Chair.
Did you, Chip, did you log on at the outset of the hearing?
Yeah, I've heard everything, and I have no objection with the letter of no objection from the fire official and the no maintenance and no storage of flammables, hazardous chemicals.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I do have one more question. This is probably for Mr. Eaton. Do we have any concerns about access openings, considering that there's only openings at either end of this particular structure?
I know we've had that come up on past projects. I think there's a 6 or 8 foot high concrete abuse wall around the perimeter of these, so probably an opening in there, maybe. I don't know if it affects the structure of the bowstring type truss, but I don't have any strong objection just due to the nature of the use.
Okay, I just wanted to ask that question again, just because we are over. I don't remember the exact distance in the code, but I think we're over that distance from side to side that normally triggers that access openings.
75 feet, but yeah, I agree. It's a valid point, but I'm comfortable based on the use and limited occupancy of it.
This is Kyle Carpenter. So the access to the middle of the building from either opening is only 64 feet, if that helps your position at all. Thank you.
I think it's the other direction that we're concerned about, the long length of the building.
Yes, that is to the center.
Yeah, I think OBC 903.2.1.1 has that limited distance of 75 feet between opposite walls. And that's basically, it's converted from the what used to be the basement code section, but they moved it up to stories without windows, basically, or without openings.
Okay. Well, do you want to, are you in a position to put anything up?
Yeah, in a moment, I will be ready.
Okay, very good. We're off record for a second, Sam. What are you eating, Chip?
Turkey sandwich.
Got it, all right.
has, but that'll take, you might not be able to get a part till a week from now. We got the hall rented out? Yeah, the battery. Mute this. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I do have some conditions put up on the screen.
Sam, back on, please. Mr. Carpenter, are you able to see the screen?
This is Kyle. Yes, I am.
Okay, very good.
This variance is conditioned on the following. Number one, an alternate fire alarm system shall be installed and maintained comprising of system smoke detectors with integral heat detectors throughout the entire structure, audible/visual devices throughout the entire structure, and pull stations at all identified means of egress to the satisfaction of the building official. Number two, the alternate fire alarm system shall be required to be off-premise monitored in a manner approved pursuant to OBC 901.6. Number three, the alternate fire alarm system and off-premise monitoring shall be considered required systems and listed as such on the certificate of occupancy by the building official. Number four, the alternate fire alarm system and off-premise monitoring shall be maintained as required systems utilizing the Ohio Fire Code and adopted NFPA standards. Number five, no vehicle or equipment maintenance shall be permitted within the structure at any time. Number six, hazardous material storage, including fuel storage, is not permitted within the structure at any time. Number seven, portable fire extinguishers shall be installed according to the provisions of OBC 906 and to the satisfaction of the fire official, and shall be maintained as required by the Ohio Fire Code and adopted NFPA standards. Number eight, a letter of no objection shall be submitted by the fire official to the Board of Building Appeals and the chief building official before a construction permit is issued. Number nine, this variance is granted based on the use, construction, occupant load, building area, and level of activity identified on the approved construction documents, including the maintenance of all building systems and any conditions required herein.
Mr. Carpenter, any comments?
This is Kyle. No, acceptable to us.
Very good. And Jeff, any comments?
No, Mr. Chair, those are acceptable as well.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I got it, Paul. If you, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I was just opening up the next one. This for Board of Building Appeals, case number 21-0073. The appellant is Eric Moser of the Ohio Department of Transportation for premises ODOT, Pickaway County, FSMF, Building C, Perrin Cold Storage Building, and Perrin at 1476 Progress Parkway, Circleville, Ohio 43113. The appellee is Jeffrey Eaton, building official for the Bureau of Building Code Compliance and State of Ohio for adjudication order number 2021-06-0026. I move to grant the variance subject to the conditions previously read in the record and noting the no objection of the building official.
Okay, that motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Carpenter, Mr. Eaton, by a 4-0 vote of this board, the variance is granted on those conditions. Is there anything further, Mr. Carpenter, at this time?
This is Kyle. No, there's nothing further. Appreciate the support.
Thank you. Mr. Eaton, anything further?
No, sir. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Very good. Thanks. Appreciate it. Do we need a break or do you want to move forward? Sounds
okay,
like,
Mr. Chair.
yeah, let's do that. Sam, let's remain on record. I'm going to call a Columbus case It's case number 21-0061, deals with the premises located at 240 North Fifth Street, located in Columbus, and the building department's adjudication number is noted on the docket. Let's have a appearance of the parties. I understand we may have a sizable group of participants, or at least attendees that are representative of the appellant. And I think we have Chief Sanders and Mr. Ghosh present on behalf of the city of Columbus. But Mr. Culp, let's begin with you. State your full name, spell your last name, and then the capacity by which you're here. And if you want to identify others that are appearing with you, sufficient that I would have to have them sworn in so that they could be heard, we can go down the line and do that as well.
Hi, John Culp. First name is John, Jon. Last name Kolp. I'm with JLL. We are the owner's representative to the Hackman Capital. I will not be the lead presenter here. The lead presenter will be Frank Weaver from WSA. We also have on Philip Hackman from Hackman Capital, and John Mangini from Pepper Construction. And I believe we also have on a representative from our fire protection subcontractor, AA. So
is that Chris Maddox?
Yes, I see John shaking his head. So if you if it pleases you, I would like to turn this over to Frank to let him direct the conversation.
We're not quite there yet.
Okay.
So Mr. Culp identified himself. I do need, for purposes of the record, others that were just mentioned by Mr. Culp, sequentially, if you can do so, to identify yourself, state your full name, spell your last name, and then the capacity by which you're here. So we have that into the record. We'll do the same thing with Mr. Coach and our fire official, Chief Sanders. Or I can help the cause along. Is Mr. Weaver, are you present?
Yes.
And that's Frank Weaver? Okay.
Yes.
And is Phil Hackman present, please? Okay. John Mangini?
I am present.
And is it Chris Maddox present, or is it Greg House?
Chris Maddox, and I'm present.
Okay, and
Greg House is also present.
Okay, Greg House is also present. Thank you for saying that. Anyone else representing the appellant? Okay, Mr. Ghosh, if you'd enter your appearance, please. Oh, we don't have him, Susan?
I'm not sure. Scott Sanders, are you here?
Yes.
Okay, and then we had somebody join anonymously. I assume that was Amit. Maybe not, I guess not.
Well, another bump in the road here. I probably should have asked it. I just assumed Mr. Ghosh was present. Let's take just a short reprieve here, and Susan, can you reach out to Mr. Ghosh?
Yes, I will.
Okay, off record, Sam.
Scott, this is Susan. I sent Amit an email, but can you reach him by phone? I don't have a phone number for him.
Yeah, yes, I was just on the phone with him just now. He can hear everyone. He's hit *6, but we're not hearing him. So he hung up. I think he was trying again.
Okay.
But he is on.
Okay, thank you. So whoever's waiting in the lobby is appearing anonymous.
I think that's Amit. Amit, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can.
We can now, but you appear anonymously. Has it come to that now, Mr. Ghosh?
Yes, I apologize, Mr. Chair. I don't know what happened.
You're fine. You're fine.
Amit Ghosh, GHOSH, Chief Building Official, City of Columbus.
Okay, and Chief?
Battalion Chief Scott Sanders, Columbus, Ohio Division of Fire, Fire Marshal.
Okay, now, if Mr. Weaver, Mr. Hackman, Mr. Colt, Mr. Mangini, Mr. House, and Mr. Maddox, Mr. Ghosh, and Battalion Chief Sanders would each stand, raise your right hand wherever you're situated, and Sam, would you administer the oath?
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
All right, let the record reflect that the oath's been administered and everybody accepted that. Mr. Weaver, for your benefit, and really for all the representatives here, we're a board of 5 as we were created by the General Assembly. Our engineer member, due to a death of a close friend, has a funeral commitment this afternoon and is unable to be with us, which means if we proceeded as a board of 4, and if in the event that there was a split vote, 2-2, or however that math would come out, the adjudication order would be upheld that the City of Columbus issued in this case. So there is a dynamic to that, but notwithstanding that, are you comfortable proceeding in front of a board of 4 today?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Mr. Ghosh and Chief Sanders, any concerns about proceeding in front of this board shorthanded today?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are okay with proceeding.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Weaver, you and/or one of your colleagues have the floor.
Great, thank you. I'd like to start. Do we have access to all the documents that were sent over? Or do you want us to work off? Do you guys have control, or can we gain control?
Mr. Began,
you can get control if you share. If you share, I could put your presentation up on the screen.
Yeah, let's do that. I'd like to start with just a basic site plan. Our building 250 North 5th Street is indicated there in the center. You've got 4th Street heading out of downtown on your left. You've got East Naughton Street on the north and 5th Street that comes off of Naughton. And again, the 240 North 5th Street building is the building in the center. It's one of 4 existing buildings that we have under construction currently with the Hackman Capital Group. Next, I'd like to jump to our building plans. Currently, we have a 4-story building, basement plus 3 floors, an unoccupied basement structure. And if we jump to the first floor, the Everstream tenant that's located in the color is one of the tenants' suites that we're going to be looking at. The first floor is comprised of about 16,000 square feet per floor. The building is 1B construction. That's the Everstream tenant located there on the first floor. If we jump to the second floor, you've got a corridor, 2 stairs that exit off of that main corridor, and then small business suites that surround that corridor. If you jump to the third floor, we've got the Bloomberg Suite, another suite that's identified in the variance request. Again, it's a main corridor with business suites around and 2 main exit stairs that take you out of the building. So back to the first floor, we'll jump right into the each suite. Suite 160 is about approximately 480 square feet. It is protected today with an FM 200 system that's tied into the building's fire alarm system. And if you jump up to the 3rd floor, there's the Bloomberg Suite. It's approximately 948 square feet. Again, it's protected with an existing FM 200 system. So during construction, when the sprinkler drawings were submitted and sprinkler work started on the building, Hackman went about contacting the existing tenants to let them know that we would be in their suites doing sprinkler work. And that's when we got a strong response back from both the Bloomberg and Everstream tenants that they did not want sprinkler systems installed in their suites. So at that point, we went about revising the drawings and got the rejection from the city of Columbus. So here we are today. We're asking that the board consider a variance for these 2 small suites within the existing structure to stay as is, be protected by the FM 200 system. And the majority of the sprinkler work has already been done in the entire building, basements through 3rd floor. So we're really down to the last 2 spaces here in the building, and we would respectfully seek a variance for those 2 spaces.
Any questions of Mr. Weaver by members of the board?
I have one, Carl. So the remainder of the building is suppressed.
Pardon?
The entire building is suppressed except for these 2 locations.
Correct.
And these have the FM 200 system in it?
Yes.
Any other questions of Mr. Weaver? Mr. Ghosh?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have no objection. Only question I have is how does the discharge of the FM 200 system gets notified, like sprinkler water flow? I was trying to reach Mr. Weaver last week. We were unsuccessful in touching base. So if we could get that clarification, would be okay.
Mr. Weaver?
Yeah, I'd like to defer to the sprinkler contractor. I know that the FM 200 system is tied in to the existing fire alarm system, but he would be the one to be able to answer of how that system ties in to the sprinkler system.
And would that be Mr. Maddox?
Yes.
Mr. Maddox?
Yes, regarding that question, in theory, if it reports to the existing panel, it should report to any updates or new panels. However, I am not the licensed fire alarm contractor, and that would be the work of a licensed and bonded electrician or fire alarm installer.
I want to follow up with that, Mr. Ghosh or Chief Sanders?
Yeah, I'm sure, I'm confident we can get to a resolution that whatever Amit is looking for in terms of reporting of that FM 200 to the fire alarm or the sprinkler system. I'm sure we could get that done.
Okay. Any further questions of Mr. Ghosh by members of the board? Chief, we'll hear from you.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Fire would be satisfied if they could find a way to, if we could make that work, if there could be a form of notification, we would be accepting.
I'll ask my colleagues, how would we word that as a condition, Paul? Just to the satisfaction of the fire official?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm looking at some conditions right now. I would think would be the FM 200 fire suppression system shall report to the fire alarm system upon activation to the satisfaction of the building and fire officials.
Okay, if we head that direction, Mr. Weaver, is that satisfactory to you?
It is, yes.
Okay, okay, we'll go off record for just a second and let Mr. Began craft some conditions.
Actually, Mr. Chair, I had a question.
I'm sorry.
I had a question for the appellant. You say this system is pre-existing, and where do the gases go? I mean, how does this, how is it dispelled so that we're not causing an issue of suffocation? I mean, we're not suffocating people, just the fire. I mean.
Yeah, so my understanding is there's an alarm system in the room, and you're given a short period of time. These are not large spaces, but it typically is a minute, 2 minutes, or whatever. There's an alarm inside the building that notifies you to get out of there before the gaseous system goes off. I mean, it's a standard FM 200 system that's been installed in both of these spaces.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's a clean agent system too, so there's really not a huge danger to any occupant, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're off the record for just a moment.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I put some conditions up on the screen.
Okay, back on the record, Sam. Mr. Ghosh, are you able to, are you able to visualize the screen from where you are connected?
Mr. Chair, no, but I will follow along with Mr. Began.
Okay, and then what about Chief Sanders?
I'm in the same scenario.
Okay, all right. Well, Mr. Began will read these, and we'll see where we go.
Variance is conditioned on the following. Number one, an FM 200 fire suppression system shall be permitted in Suite 160. Parent approximately 484 square feet, end parent, and Suite 320, parent approximately 948 square feet, end parent, as part of an automatic sprinkler system installed throughout the entire building complex. The building complex shall be considered fully suppressed according to the requirements of Chapter 9 of the Ohio Building Code. Number two, the FM 200 fire suppression system shall report to the fire alarm system upon activation to the satisfaction of the building and fire officials. Number three, the FM 200 fire suppression system shall be maintained as a required system and listed as a special condition on the certificate of occupancy by the building official. Number four, should the use of these spaces change, the FM 200 fire suppression system shall be completely removed and the building automatic sprinkler system shall be extended into them to the satisfaction of the building and fire officials. And number five, this variance is granted based on the use, construction, occupant load, building area, and level of activity identified on the approved construction documents, including the maintenance of all building systems and any conditions required herein.
Okay, first opportunity to comment is you, Mr. Weaver, on those proposed conditions.
We have no comments. We agree with the 5 items.
Mr. Ghosh, Chief Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's excellent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Satisfied.
Well, that's a compliment to you, Paul.
Thank you.
Those were called excellent. So, in any event, I would entertain a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chair. For Board of Building Appeals case number 21-0061, the appellant is HCP Columbus Warehouse District 1 LLC for the premises 240 North 5th Street, Columbus, Ohio. The appellee is Amit Ghosh, building official, for adjudication order number A/O 2021-006. I move to grant the variance, subject to the conditions previously read in the record and noting the no objection of the building and fire officials.
Okay, that motion's been duly made. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Weaver, the variance is granted on those 5 conditions by a 4-0 vote of this board. Is there anything further to come in front of the board this time?
Nope, just thanks to everyone and especially Susan for helping set us up and get this together. So thank you.
Anything further to come in front of the board on behalf of Columbus Building and or Fire? Okay, let's just take a short 2 or 3 minute break, restroom, get a glass of water, coffee, whatever, and pretty much on time, and we'll call our 2 o'clock case.
Hi, Dan, this is Susan. You're muted.
Hello.
Dan?
Yes, hello.
Oh, hi, you came in by phone as well as computer?
Yes, I don't have a mic at my computer.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I see, it looks like you're here, Dave's here, Brad is here, Is Brad DeHaze attending?
He will not.
And Randy is not attending, correct?
Correct.
Okay, then everybody's here. Thank you.
If you need to go, you want to go, you're wrong. Hey, Neil, you still with us?
I am.
Okay. Paul, you're back?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hey, Carl, I may bug out after this next case if the power company gets here. All right.
Okay. Understood. Okay. Thank you for your indulgence. We're going to call a case that was set for 2 o'clock on our docket, noting that it's 2:10, and it is case number 21-0069. It also is a Columbus Building Department matter, and it deals with the premises located at 577 West Nationwide Boulevard, located in Columbus, and the building department's adjudication number is noted on the docket. I understand from Susan that we have at least 3, if not more, parties or participants representing the appellant. But let's start with state, whoever's representing the appellant, state your full name, spell your last, so we have that on the record. And then the capacity by which you're here representing the appellant. We'll do the same thing with Mr. Ghosh and Chief Sanders, assuming they're still with us. I'll have an oath administered, and then we'll go over some ground rules because we're 1 member short today on the board.
All right, Brad, do you want to go first?
Sure. My name is Brad Annan, and I am last name ANNAN, and I'm with Connect Construction, representing Connect Estate, the developer of the project. And then,
go ahead.
And then Dan Markowitz, who I just spoke, is with Sandvik Architects, and he'll be presenting the matter to you today.
Okay. Is Dave Abrams, is he present?
Yes, sir. This is Dave Abramczyk. I'm also with Sandvik Architects.
Okay, very good. And is Mr. DeHaze going to be present or not?
He was not available today.
Okay, very good. Mr. Ghosh, you still with us?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Ahmed Ghosh, Ghosh, City of Columbus.
Okay, and Chief Sanders, are you with us still?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Battalion Chief Scott Sanders, Columbus, Ohio Division of Fire, Fire Marshal.
Okay, if the 3 appellant representatives and Columbus Building and Fire officials would each stand, raise your right hand. Sam, would you administer an oath, please?
Okay. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I do. I do.
Okay, we are by statute a creature of 5. Our engineer member is unavailable today due to a funeral service for a close friend. So the dynamic there would be that if for some reason, it's not likely, but if for some reason there was a split vote on this board, the adjudication order by Columbus Building Department would stand. There would be no variance granted. So we would give the opportunity to have the matter continued until we're a fully populated board, unless the parties wish to proceed presently, which they probably do. But Mr. Markowitz or Mr. Annan, what's your pleasure in that regard?
That seems fair.
Okay, and I'm assuming the same. No issues with that, Mr. Ghosh or Chief Sanders?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Yes.
Fair enough. Thank you. Okay. Whoever's going to present for the appellant, you have the floor.
Okay. This is Dan Markowitz with Sandvik Architects. The owner's office space at the 5th and 6th floor of this property. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay.
Mm-hmm. This is the municipal power plant, right?
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So at the 6th floor, which is on the right of these 2 plans, highlighted in yellow, there's an elevator lobby and public corridor. So the door to the stair, there's no locking desired. At both stairs at the 5th floor and the northeast stair, upper right-hand corner, at the 6th floor, these stairs provide direct access to the office space. And so the owner would like to have these doors locked from the stair side, from the side opposite of egress. There's a fire command center in the building. These would be capable of being unlocked simultaneously without unlatching upon a signal from the fire command center. Also, upon activation of the building fire alarm system or loss of power, these would unlock. Section 403 provides for this for high-rise buildings, and Section 1010 provides for this in buildings up to 4 stories. We fall in the middle of that. So we're just hoping to get a variance to allow this unlocking, this electronic locking, just to provide security to their spaces, to have public corridors on, at both of these floors, connecting the 2 stairs at each floor would just operationally be a hardship, for the owner. They just, it would, they don't want to divide their spaces. So.
Okay, questions of Mr. Markowitz? Okay, hearing no questions. Mr. Ghosh?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did have this discussion with Mr. DeHaze, and they do have a fire command center, so the doors can be released from a central location, which is acceptable. And I explained to Brad that, the other thing that the high-rise buildings have, they have stair pressurization, so there's no smoke that migrates to the stairway. And can you put some the doors with weather stripping on the stairway side? He said, I can't do that for the first floors. Those doors are already installed, but on the 5th and 6th floor, I'll be willing to do that. And if that's okay by the appellant, I'll be in support of this appeal.
Okay, before we defer to Mr. Markowitz on that, I want to hear from the chief on that.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Chief Sanders here. Fire would agree with, if he had installed gasketed doors up in the upper levels, we would be satisfied with that also, along with the building.
Okay, Mr. Markowitz?
Yes.
Is that acceptable to you?
Yes, and as I pulled up on my screen right now, we do already call for gasketing and sweep and threshold at these doors.
Okay. What are the thoughts and sentiments of my colleagues?
I'm in favor of the variance, Mr. Chair.
And Mr. Chair, I don't have a problem with it, with the specified conditions.
And Paul?
I would be supportive of a variance to putting together the right set of conditions.
Okay, we'll stand down for a second. We'll go off record and allow Mr. Began to work something up for our consideration. I can
Okay, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Sam, let's go back on the record, please. Let me make sure. Neil, you're still with us?
I am.
Okay, very good.
Okay, I am putting some conditions up on the screen and let me read through them. Variances conditioned on the following. Number one, an electronic lock system shall be permitted in stairs 3 and 4 on the 5th and 6th floors only to prevent access from the stairwell onto the floor. The door lock shall always permit egress into the stairwell. Signage shall be installed at each electronic lock location, noting that access is not available to the satisfaction of the building and fire officials. Number 2, the electronic locks shall fail to open upon activation of the fire alarm system or loss of power. Number 3, an additional electronically controlled release of the locks shall be provided in the fire command center to the satisfaction of the building and fire officials. Number 4, the stair doors with the electronic lock systems shall be sealed to prevent the transmission of smoke to the satisfaction of the building and fire officials. Number 5, the electronic lock system shall be removed upon change in tenancy to the satisfaction of the building official. And number 6, this variance is granted based on the use, construction, occupant load, building area, and level of activity identified on the approved construction documents, including the maintenance of all building systems and any conditions required herein.
Okay, first off, Mr. Markowitz, is that those acceptable? Or any questions on those?
I don't have any questions. Brad, do you? No, Brad's saying that he doesn't.
Okay, very good. And Mr. Ghosh and/or Chief Sanders?
Yeah, let me just.
No, Mr. Chair, that works perfectly.
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, very good. I would entertain a motion.
It's not quite excellent though, apparently.
No.
It is, Mr. Chair to Mr. Began, it is excellent.
Okay, there you go.
Got one more shot at it.
I thought maybe Mr. Began slipped over the last hour, but I guess not.
He has.
Do you want me to read the motion, Paul? Or you got it?
If you're willing to accept a motion, Mr. Chair.
I am, yes, please.
For Board of Building Appeals, case number 21-0069, the appellant is Connect Realty LLC and Municipal Light Plant LLC for the premises 577 West Nationwide Boulevard, Columbus, Ohio. The appellee is Amit Ghosh, building official for the City of Columbus Building Department, and adjudication order number A/O 2021-008. I move to grant the variance subject to the conditions previously read in the record and noting the no objection of the building and fire officials.
Okay, that motion's been duly made. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Markowitz, Mr. Annan, those variances granted on those conditions by a 4-0 vote of this board. Is there anything further to come in front of the board at this time on this case?
No, that should be good. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes this case. Now, Neil, do you want to stay on and try the last case here, or what's your pleasure?
Chairman?
Yes.
Schneider, I just got off the phone with Neil. He used my phone to listen because he got knocked off to the motion and he voted through my phone, and he is now gone for the day. He had to leave.
He's gone for the day. Well, all right. So well, let's make sure the record then reflects that he did affirmatively vote in favor of the variance based on the conditions that were presented. And I'm assuming nobody needs to have any further comment on that unless they want to at this time. Mr. Markowitz, anything further?
No.
Mr. Ghosh and/or Chief Sanders, anything further on this case?
No,
Okay.
Mr. Chair, thank you.
Okay, then let's move on. Thank you. We'll move on to our last case then. It's case number 21-0070. It deals with the premises located at 300 East Fifth Street, East Fifth Avenue, apologize, located in Columbus, and Columbus Building Department's adjudication number is noted on the docket. I understand that at least from Ms. Steer, that those that are going to present are in attendance, but I'll need to have your your full name, spell your last name, and the capacity by which you're here representing the appellant. We'll do the same thing with Mr. Ghosh and Chief Sanders. I'll have an oath administered, and then I'll have to go over a couple housekeeping things as it relates to how our board is configured this afternoon. So whoever's going to present on behalf of the appellant, please state your full name and spell your last name and the capacity by which you're here.
I'm Chet Croce, C-R-O-C-E. I am the architect for Marker Development.
Thank you. Someone might need to mute, or I don't know what that background noise is, but go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Croce.
We also have Kirk Marker, M-A-R-K-E-R, on behalf of Marker Development. I'm General Counsel.
And Chris Gump, G-U-M-P, on behalf of Marker Development as well.
And Grant Dolben, D-O-L-V-E-N, on behalf of Marker Development.
Okay, is
there anybody? My name is Kevin McCaughey, M-C-C-A-U-G-H-E-Y, electrical designer on behalf of Marker Development.
Okay, Mr. Ghosh.
Amit Ghosh, G-H-O-S-H, building official, City of Columbus.
And Chief Sanders.
Battalion Chief Scott Sanders, Columbus, Ohio Division of Fire, Fire Marshal.
Okay, if each of you that have identified yourself will stand, raise your right hand. Sam, would you administer an oath, please?
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Yes.
Okay, this is really probably more for the benefit of the appellant, but we're a board of 5. We started today a board of 4. When it's a board of 4, the split vote, that dynamic comes into play where the adjudication order would be upheld, no variance would be granted. But we're now down to a board of 3. And it would require a majority of this board or 3 votes to grant a variance. In light of the fact that both our engineer and our pipe fitter members are unavailable at this time, we would continue the case if that was a request that was made by the appellant. I'm pretty sure we would, so that you could appear in front of a board of 5. But we're also happy to proceed as long as everybody knows the ground rules right now as a board of 3. Mr. Croce and or any of your colleagues, what are your thoughts?
We accept.
Okay, and I'm assuming Mr. Ghosh and Chief Sanders the same, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all right.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Croce, you or any of your colleagues have the floor.
Mr. Chair, I just want to let Mr. Ghosh and Chief Sanders know that, I don't know if you had mentioned that the appellant is represented by an attorney.
Oh, I did not. Sorry about that. Okay. Right. So, Mr. Ghosh, you'd have the ability to have city attorney's office represent the building department. You know that. Are you still willing to proceed?
Mr. Chair, to Mr. Began, again, excellent point. And yes, Mr. Chair, we'll proceed.
Okay, and I assume the same benefit would be afforded Columbus Fire. You willing to proceed,
Yes,
Chief?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, counsel, you have the floor.
Yes, so the 300 East Fifth Avenue building, it's a multi-use building with mostly parking garage on the 1st and 2nd floors. There are some retail spaces, a lobby, and some mechanical room support as well. On the 2nd floor podium level, there are living units with an amenity deck and pool. And then the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th floors are identical living unit floors. Currently, the building is not classified as a high-rise structure, but is more than 4 stories. So it kind of falls into an area of code that's not fully covered in the 2017 version of the OBC section 1010.1.9.11. There is a stairwell on the east and west ends of the building, and the documents currently indicate door hardware on the second floor and up, which is all unit floors, to have openable passage set from the occupied side, and currently would be locked with a card reader on the stair side. So the purpose of this is security. The tenants will only have access to the floors that they reside. And I'm going to add also that it provides a second line of defense for an active shooter situation. I also note that the documents currently prescribe that in case of fire or smoke or the loss of power, all stair egress will be overwritten to fail open by the fire alarm system. Another notable mention is that the 2018 IBC has been modified to clarify that non-high-rise buildings, regardless of the number of stories, could have electrified locks capable of remote release. And the Columbus Building Department has proposed smoke gaskets on the doors, a remote door lock release button near the entry, and other than that, I guess if it's okay with the council, I'd like to let Mr. Marker add if he needs to anything about that.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Thanks, Chet. I think you pretty much covered everything. We just want to reiterate it is about security. We believe the fire safety is covered here with the fail safe and the fire alarm connection. So this is all about, there's only one breach of entry to the building, which is through the outside of the building, not at the main entry to get into stairwells. And from there, anybody can get into any of the corridor living units if we were to not be successful with this appeal. So what we're asking obviously is what we had designed, which is to have access control so that only the individuals that live on, that particular floor can access that particular floor. And so the emergency release at the front of the building, we don't yet know where that is because it really is right now through this appeal sort of at the discretion of fire marshal, or I think it's even open further to a first responder, so that could involve the police department. What we are asking for here is that you guys would consider us allowing us to put that somewhere where, if this is mostly related to fire and security, we'd want to put that either in the Knox box or somewhere where the key from the Knox box can access wherever this emergency release button will be. Again, this goes back to security. Obviously, we don't want somebody to be able to just release all of the access floors. We realize that becomes an issue from the police standpoint, not necessarily from the fire standpoint. So that's obviously, we're here to discuss that further if necessary. You guys have anything else to add, Chris or Grant? I'll turn it over to Kevin if Kevin wants to add anything as well.
Okay.
No, Kirk, nothing else to add. Chet did a good job summarizing the installation. And again, I would agree that we can locate those features to release fire alarm and release doors with the recommendations from police and fire.
Yeah, one other thing to add there is, we don't have security cameras where the stairwell enters the corridor on all these floors. We because of the access control, we just feel like cameras, while they can be a deterrent, they're also, a reactive measure. They're not active. And so that's why we strongly prefer the access control system.
Okay, questions of any of the appellant representatives by members of the board?
Mr. Chair, Paul Began, I'm sure you heard the previous case. In this particular instance, are either of the stairwells provided with stair pressurization?
No, they are not.
Any other questions by members of the board at this point? Okay. Mr. Ghosh?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Croce did mention that we had this discussion before, that we're again requesting that the doors into the stairway be gasketed to prevent passage of smoke, and thresholds.
Okay, and I'm assuming the chief's on board with that?
Yes, Mr. Chair, with the gasketed doors, we feel, we are satisfied with that.
Okay, what's Chip and Paul, what are your thoughts on that?
I support the variance with the same conditions that I mean, obviously we don't have a fire command center here, but some type of emergency release that's accessible by the fire department.
Mr. Croce, you and or your colleagues, what are your thoughts or comments with regard to that?
We accept that. Question might be exactly how can we keep the security button, or what would be acceptable to keep the security button secure from anyone other than the fire department? Could we put it in the Knox box, for example, or something like that?
And Mr. Chair, I wouldn't mind answering that. It's going to be the satisfaction of the building and fire officials. So that's not a decision for us to decide here at this board. I mean, that's a detail that the fire department obviously are going to be the ones going to be utilizing it. So they're going to be the ones that, per our order, should we grant it, would be up to them to decide how they want it to be accessed.
This is Chief Sanders. I would lean towards the Knox box option, but I'd like to speak offline with my team. I would not want that to hold up this vote. I would be in favor of it, but it's something that Mr. Ghosh and I and the appellant, the three of us, if this were to pass, we could come to an agreement.
So, Mr. Croce, I guess the question is, are you comfortable if we move forward, leaving that issue to the discretion of Chief Sanders and his team?
I believe we are, Mr. Marker.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Paul, do you need a minute?
No, I do need a clarifying question. We have 2 stairs and we're planning on putting these locks on floors 2 through 6. Is that correct? Just a confirmation on that.
That is correct.
Okay. If you just give me 10 seconds, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I can put them up. Okay, I've put some conditions up on the screen. Let me read through them. This variance is conditioned on the following. Number 1, an electronic lock system shall be permitted in stairs S101 and S102 on floors 2 through 6 only to prevent access from the stairwell onto the floor. The door locks shall always permit egress into the stairwell. Signage shall be installed at each electronic lock location, noting that access is not available to the satisfaction of the building and fire officials. Number 2, the electronic locks shall fail open upon activation of the fire alarm system or loss of power. Number 3, an additional electronically controlled release of the locks shall be provided near the fire alarm panel to the satisfaction of the building and fire officials. Number 4, the stair doors with the electronic lock systems shall be sealed to prevent the transmission of smoke to the satisfaction of the building and fire officials. And number 5, this variance is granted based on the use, construction, occupant load, building area, and level of activity identified on the approved construction documents, including the maintenance of all building systems and any conditions required herein.
Okay, Mr. Croce, you and/or Mr. Marker, is there a comfort level with those 5 stated conditions?
I'm comfortable with this.
And Chief Sanders and Mr. Ghosh?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Excellent.
Okay. Sam, they both spoke at the same time, but I think you got that. Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chair. For Board of Building Appeals, case number 21-070, the appellants are Marker Development and 300 East 5th LLC for the premises 300 East 5th Avenue, Columbus, Ohio. The appellee is Amit Ghosh, building official for the City of Columbus Building Department, and adjudication order number A/O 2021-009. I move to grant the variance subject to the conditions previously read in the record, and again noting the no objection of the building and fire officials.
Okay, that motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, gentlemen, the variance is granted on those conditions by a 3-0 vote of this board. So that concludes this case unless there's anything further to come in front of the board on this matter.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, that would conclude our active docket. I would note that case number 21-0045, dealing with the Cleveland Plumbing Supply Facility in Chagrin Falls, which was a Division of Industrial Compliance case, has been withdrawn. So that is not going to be heard by us. Well, I would entertain, just for housekeeping here, can one of the two of you move to approve the minutes for June 18th, 2021? I think, Susan, we had everybody here, right, for June 18th?
Correct.
Okay.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those minutes have been approved for June 18th. I suppose we'd have to carry this unanimously, this next one as well, but is there a motion to approve preparation and compensation of the board members for today's hearings?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
And is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we stand to be compensated for our efforts here today, in advance of today. Susan, anything further to come in front of the board today?
Today, we can talk about it today or tomorrow. Neil will not be here tomorrow, correct?
But Brad will.
But Brad will. We need to talk hearing dates in July. What you guys want to do, and in August we are back in person. I think I sent an email out asking the board if they would be willing to add the 16th and do a 2-day here in Columbus.
For August or July?
July. We're already scheduled in the afternoon of the 15th. We could do an overnight and finish up the morning of the 16th, and then the other thing is I also have a call into ODOT, and they're to get back with me on availability for the future on the conference room. So I haven't heard back from them yet. So I'm just trying to at least get July in place because it's in person. I'm not sure what we're going to do.
You said August, and now you say July.
No, July. I'm sorry. Did I say August and July? If we could get things.
Okay, but are we? So
I got to get people in.
We're right now scheduled to have hearings on the 15th, correct?
Only, yes.
And is that in person?
That is in person, effective July 1st. We go back in person. I did talk to Garrett, questioning him on the parties, if they would have to be in person, because I didn't know if we were going to be able to do remote in the training rooms or anything. And according to him, yes, they could do it remotely, but it would have to be at the agreement of the parties. So,
okay.
But the board and myself have to be in person.
Okay, so speaking for myself, I do get in late on the 14th, but the afternoon of the 15th would work. And if if there is a agreement by the members of the board to remain overnight and do the next morning, that would be fine by me. I don't know about the rest of you, and of course, we don't have Neil or Brad here. We'll have to probably cover that tomorrow, but generally, Paul and Chip, are you comfortable with that?
I do have previous engagement here in Cleveland on the evening of the 15th.
Okay. All right, so that's probably not going to work.
I mean, I could probably do 14th to 15th, just so that I get back by the evening.
Yeah, and I won't be back from
Yeah.
North Carolina then. Doesn't Began and Associates have a private plane? All right, Susan, let's come up with some alternative dates and discuss it with Brad tomorrow.
In July, I don't know. Let me just let everybody know, Carl, you're out until you don't get back till the 14th in the evening. That leaves the 15th and 16th, and I fly out on the 18th for our annual, for our timeshare that we do every year. I will not fly back in until the evening of the 26th. And if we're going to do anything the week of the 26th, I really need a couple days to process and get it out to you.
Okay, so Paul and Chip, if you look at that week, you wouldn't do the 20. Are you back the 26th, or you'd be available the 27th?
No, I don't come back into the office till the 27th. I fly back in the evening of the 26th. I'll be back at work on the 27th. I'm just stating anything that's received. I'll have everything scheduled by the 16th. Anything that's received in after I leave the week of the 19th, I won't be able to process until I get back to the office.
Understood. Okay, well.
Well, I mean, here's what we do. If we do 15th and 16th, I could probably do either one of the days, right? If we do it on the 15th, I would have to do it early so I can get back in time. And then if we did it on the 16th, I would have to do it late. I mean, that's just the thing about it. So I'd hate for anybody else who needs to travel down there that's staying down there have to spend half a day waiting. So either I don't participate on one of the days, or we got to move them around.
Three of us are Columbus, but Neil's not going to want to be hanging around Columbus.
I spoke to Neil. Neil is already in Columbus that week, so he's okay.
So you could do 12:30, 15th, and 12:30, 16th?
No, it would have to be early on the 15th because I got I said early evening engagement on the 15th.
Oh, yeah.
Paul, are you willing to travel back and forth for 2 days from Cleveland?
Or we go into the week of the 27th
or you just do 1 day. Maybe you do just the 16th.
Yeah, that would, if we did if we started, like, let's say at, we can start, we'd do the full day on the 16th?
That's fine. I mean, it had to be a little bit later, so I don't have to get up way too early. I don't mind leaving.
Understand. I'm going to be getting, I'd prefer that, frankly, but Chip, what's your thought?
That would be fine. I have a 10 o'clock Zoom case review that shouldn't take very long. And so it's by Zoom, so I can just hop out into the hallway or whatever and participate that way.
Okay. Well, let's.
But yeah, I mean, I'm fine with just blocking it all day and be done with it for the month.
I agree. I would agree. And if Neil's already going to be down this way, that makes sense. It's just a matter of seeing what Brad's schedule's like tomorrow.
Okay. Let's talk about it tomorrow then, maybe.
Yeah.
And okay.
Now, when you say Neil's going to be down here, I mean, that doesn't necessarily, does that mean he's available then for hearings?
Well, I think he had things going on from the 12th through the 14th, if I recall. So he goes, I'll just stay in town for the 15th and 16th. So I don't know if he'll go back and then come back down. If we're only going to do 1 day, maybe on the 16th, then we've got to allow him time to drive, like Paul. start later in the morning. And
Start at 10:30, something like that. That works.
yeah, right, yeah, whatever you guys decide. And then travel back or drive back. So that's the 16th. And then all I ask is if you want something scheduled, it's still in July, 29th or 30th, or we do catch up in August.
I can do 29th or 30th if need be. We can talk about that tomorrow. You can look at your.
Yeah, absolutely.
But here's what I might suggest, that you call Neil, because he's not going to be with us tomorrow, and verify that he could do daytime on the 16th,
Okay,
just so we have that.
I will.
And then, looking at tomorrow's docket, is it the plan that we'll hear all those Kettering fire cases together?
Yes, all of them. They're identical, just different addresses. Their citations.
Okay. All right. Well, that looks like that concludes everything for today. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
I guess I'll second.
You? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we stand adjourned, other than subject to the announcement that our next hearing will be virtual tomorrow, the 29th, beginning at 8:30 a.m. So, all right. See you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Aye.
Bye-bye.
I have no idea.